Hey everyone, welcome to Webcology here on WMR.FM. It's the 27th of July, 2023. This is Jim Hedger from Digital Always Media, Christine Schackinger from Sites Without Walls. And this is the coming up on the last weekend of July. Next month is August, and the month after that, and many parts in the States, kids go back to school in the middle or last weeks of August, and in northern states and in Canada, kids go back to school in early September, and suddenly summer's gone. So all you folks out there in radio and podcast land, I hope you're listening to this outside while you're jogging or sitting in your garden or backyard or just enjoying being outside in general, because summer's almost gone.
Except if you live where I live.
Except if you live in the Southwest, where it's perpetual summer.
It's only 101 today, so not too bad. It's 113 yesterday.
Indeed. It's hot and muggy in the Northeast, around the Great Lakes Basin. It's super, super hot and muggy, and the heat just descended a while ago, like about an hour ago. It went from pleasantly warm to unbearably sweltering.
Yeah, fortunately, we do not have humidity at 6% here today. That's decent for us. So it's not as bad, but you do have to be very careful here once it gets over these temps. We had two hikers pass away this week. They went on a hike and they were found only a half mile from the trail.
Yeah.
And didn't have enough water. So if you're in our kind of temperatures, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, be very careful. Make sure you water up and do not spend a lot of time outside, and use your sunscreen.
Well, actually, the truth is, no matter where you are in North America, do that, even if you're in a very humid climate, because the heat takes it out of you and you get heat stroke and get very, 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 very sick, and it's only getting hotter year after year after year. So get into this. But anyway, so the most important point is, while you have the chance and fine weather where it is hot enough to be hot, get out and enjoy it, because if you're listening to the show, you're probably a techie, and if you're a techie, you probably don't get out and enjoy the sun enough. Go do it. Okay. We started with, and we're probably going to be starting with this story for a little while, as long as the strike is on, and as long as it looms as such a I don't even know the right word for it. It's just so many cultural and employment and so many impacts that can outcomes that can come out of this strike, depending on which way it works out. The actors and writers strike is ongoing, and recently Netflix faced a lot of consumer anger and backlash from the actors union and the Writers Guild after posting an AI job that offers up to $900,000 for an AI prompter.
Basically manager. Yeah, not just prompter.
Yeah. So someone who's going to figure out how AI works and machine learning works with the studio system, works with making movies and writing scripts and all the stuff that the Actors Guild and the Writers Union are terrified of.
And legitimately so. Some of my friends are on the picket lines today.
Oh, actually. More than legitimately so. Again, as goes just like we titled last week's podcast, as goes the writers' strike or actors' strike, so goes how AI is going to be used by and large, at least this iteration of AI, this generation of AI adopters. What happens in this strike dictates what happens in so many other fields moving forward.
It really does. And if they're paying a machine learning product manager $900,000 a year, that sounds like a pretty big move towards using a lot of AI and a lot few actors. Of course, we don't know that for sure, but definitely sounds like it. But one of the big things too is most of the actors don't even earn enough to get medical insurance. So one of the people quoted, a Hollywood writer wrote, "Cue vomit. This turns my stomach. Stay strong, comrades. The future of humanity hinges on our ability to preserve humanity." And Netflix lists 2 massive salary jobs in face of actors' AI concerns. Then they use a lot of profanity, which I want to mention. So since one of the reasons they were striking in the first place was because AI, I mean, not AI, I'm sorry, because Netflix doesn't pay residuals because once they do something, they don't get further pay from it.
Mhm.
That was one of the original issues they had. So to now add AI does seem incredibly tone deaf.
Well, the studios were going to be doing this. Netflix was going to be doing this, strike or no strike. I bet you this
Yeah,
position had been planned a year ago or 6 months ago. Um, it does, read the room, Netflix. Bad timing to put this ad up, but at the same time, it also kind of signals that at least that studio is digging its heels in. But
yeah,
you
they
know what?
probably.
AI was coming to the entertainment industry
Oh yeah,
in myriad of ways. Um, and again, just to not completely down on AI all the time, we're going to be using a good deal of AI in the production of this show in the near future. Well,
what?
not actually the production of this show, not so much, but how to say this? One of the greatest values of over 800 episodes of a podcast is we've had a lot of guests over the years, but we're going back 17 years and nobody's actually taken the time to properly catalog who matches up with which show on what topic or set of topics. So while we have this incredible archive of experts, some of the greatest minds who've ever practiced SEO have come through this studio. We haven't. I mean, we're Webmaster Radio. Remember, we've been making this up as we go along.
You're making it up
Um,
before podcasts were cool.
that's exactly. We started podcasting before there was podcasting. Well,
Yeah,
honestly, we're making this up as we go along,
yeah.
and
It's just
in
online radio.
our fly by the seat of the pants way of being, we never actually recorded a lot of stuff. We recorded everything. It's all on tape, but we never put it on paper or even in a cheap Excel file. Um, what we do have is years of emails and years of show notes, and we're just going to be dumping all that information or sending an AI through all that information and hooking up what guest was with which show talking about which topic. And that should be done in about 15 to 20 minutes after we start doing it.
Nice. And
Where
then I can
if
add it
I
to the website I will create.
absolutely, and if I was to do this myself, which I've been meaning to do for several years now, it would probably take me a week.
Oh
You know,
gosh, at least there's how many
and which is
shows?
why, I mean, now can you imagine? I had a long conversation with the management of Webmaster Radio this morning, and honestly, God, could you imagine the amount of time it would take to do this manually? So we're going to be using AI in the development and for the promotion of the show. There's a lot
But
of good uses for it.
well, as we've talked about, like we're not against AI. I'm not against AI. I'm against some of the ways it's been introduced or used. But when you're using it as a productivity help tool, we're not taking anyone's job away with this, because it would just be me or you doing it, and
I
we'd
can
rather not
guarantee
do
you,
it.
I can
So
guarantee you there is some poor intern somewhere thinking goodness that
yes, that they don't have to do this.
that they didn't have to do this.
Yes. There are some tasks nobody wants to do. Going through this many shows, that definitely is one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So anyway, that's out there. Netflix is again sort of signaled that it's digging itself in. They're hiring a large language model. Basically, they're hiring a studio head for AI.
Basically, yeah, product manager. But yeah. And what's interesting, you remember the last strike they had where both SAG and like after everyone struck?
That was
You know
quite a
what came
while
you
ago.
know
It
what
was
you know what
1990
came
or
out of
something.
yeah, it's like late 90s, early 2000s. You
Okay.
know what came out of that?
No.
Reality shows. Because they didn't have to script and they didn't have to pay union people to do the reality shows. So that's when the reality show boom came. So I'm guessing they accelerated their plans for AI so that if this goes on for a while, they can make things using AI generated, um,
We shall see what happens
media.
or not, depending on how one feels about writing or watching content created by scabs. So we
Exactly.
shall see what
Exactly.
happens or not.
Just remember, my friends are out there today in 100-degree heat picketing because it means that much to them. So
Okay, this is the we have to, I guess it's the stupidest story of the week or year. Um, Very real. Uh, X marks something or another. X marks the dirty spot. X marks Musk. X marks where the treasure is.
No
X
treasure.
marks where the buried treasure is on that
Mm.
mythical map that you've been following for years and years and years, ever since you wanted to start using the damn letter X to represent who the hell knows what, but it's disruptive as hell, and boy, does it feel edgy.
Well, you know what also is very interesting about the X? Um, that the X that they use for the logo is actually stolen from a font typeset. And there's two different typesets that people said it came from. So I'm not going to say which one because I'm not sure. But an old typeset from like years ago, they took the X from there. And then the next most interesting part is it can't, it did 900 copyrights and trademarks
Well,
on
yeah,
X across the world.
everybody has a handle on X. How does that work? Microsoft has it. Meta has it.
Yeah,
That band from Los Angeles has it. Like,
Japan, Japan has an X that they can't. They will not have. They will not be able to fight the X one in Japan, according to what I was reading, because it is like a. I don't know what the entity is, but the entity is like iconic. So they own X in Japan, and interestingly enough, in one country, it's banned for the temporary. It's a temporary ban for porn. In,
yeah, Indonesia
Indonesia, right? Because
has
X.com is a porn site. It
you know
was a
what?
porn site. It's not
You
anymore.
know what? The moment I saw that article, being a good journalist I am, I way back machine this stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
you just got to check, right, to be
Right.
sure.
Right.
And as it turns out, X.com hasn't hosted porn since 2001 when PayPal bought it and
Oh,
tried
that's
to
so funny.
rebrand themselves as X.com and
Okay.
ran into half the damn problems that Musk is running into now.
But do you know who put that when they're at PayPal? Who did that?
Well, Musk tried to do it at PayPal, and then Peter
Yes,
Thiel came along and punched him in the head or
fired.
something
He fired him.
because
Make,
it was a stupid idea back then.
yeah, and that's the thing. He's trying to to reinvent his idea from back then, which is the WeChat of the West, is the everything app. Everything meaning like handling financial transactions and social. Who's going to give their banking information en
and and
masse?
and it's a
Where
place to put video, and maybe it's a place you can put audio files, and maybe it's a place you can share pictures of cats, and maybe you could even put websites up there too, and maybe other stuff. So basically,
and
as other people have suggested, Elon Musk is reinventing the internet
well, Elon Musk is eliminating Twitter or whatever
and
this is.
taking that space and reinventing the internet in the
Yeah.
black hole that used to be Twitter. Like, seriously, what I can't understand. Aside from just flailing around, throwing ideas out, hoping that something will work and make him look smart. I can't understand what he's trying to do.
Well, according to Musk, this is a direct quote. For those that have used WeChat, I think that WeChat's actually a good model. If you're in China, you kind of live on WeChat. It does everything. It's sort of like Twitter plus PayPal plus a whole bunch of other things all rolled into one, but actually a great interface. It's an excellent app. We don't have anything like that outside of China. Of course, China lives in a very different ecosystem with very restricted internet. So I don't imagine that everyone's going to suddenly leave, Instagram and PayPal and all that and suddenly use the WeChat of the West, especially given Twitter's reputation lately because he fired everybody that does the work for security, for issues, for Nazism, which is actually a thing on Twitter now. So I don't foresee that it probably go the way he thinks, but he thinks that he can make this app do everything, and you can do direct payments, and you can do send money anywhere instantly, real time. I can already do that on multiple apps. It's like he's inventing something from 2001 when they first invented it that they might have needed then that nobody needs now because we already have stuff that does all that.
You know what
I
people
can
didn't
Venmo, I can Zelle, I can PayPal, I can Wise, I can I don't need another app to pay people.
You know what else people didn't need? That comes back from the early 2Ks. Another Kevin Costner movie about nothing, and this is Tin Cup all over again. Well, but Elon Musk is just, taking the same stupid chip shot over and over and over again just to see if he can do it. And it's not going to happen, dude. It's just not going to happen.
No, I mean, I'd be really surprised if it happens. First, nobody trusts, I mean, he does have stands that trust him, but most people do not trust Elon Musk at this point. And they don't trust the tech behind what he's doing because it's had so many problems. And then we already have apps that do all this stuff. So, and then he's saying he's going to pay creators. Well, we found out what creators he's paying recently on Twitter, and they happen to be mostly, white supremacists and Nazis. I'm not saying that as a slur, like literally white supremacists and Nazis.
Literally not,
not
white supremacists and Nazis.
Literally.
Yes.
Yeah, literally Nazis. Literally
and a few people who aren't.
A few that are. Some big money went to those. Some big money went to some of those people. But those people already get that from things like what is the name of it? It starts with a B.
Patreon.
Like the one. No, Patreon. There was actually one that's, and I don't know, I can't think of the name. That during the January 6th insurrection. No, it's not. No,
because they're all perverts too. They're always perverts.
But in January 6th, there were guys that were going there to film it, who literally were making $100,000 a year going to these events as they were white nationalists and extremists. Don't get me wrong.
Parlay?
No, it starts with a B. But anyway, so they would get paid as they were like filming. People would pay them. So there's already apps for all this stuff. So, what was my point?
And again, Elon Musk is trying to reinvent or colonialize everything that's already out there, colonize everything that's already out there, and it's nonsensical. So much so.
Sorry, it's Rumble, not
Rumble. Okay.
Rumble, yeah, Rumble.
So all of his advertisers are back. I shouldn't say all. Many of his advertisers are backed away, and in fact, yeah, I understand that he's lost about half of them.
Yeah.
And so for a limited time, he's offering 50% off new bookings. Figures, eh? So yeah, he's so desperate to win advertisers back that he's half cajoling them by offering them a discount, and half threatening them by telling them if they don't sign back up, he's not going to protect their brand.
Yeah, you'll lose your verified status if you don't spend 1,000 on ads in the previous 30 days or 6,000 in the previous 180 days. Now,
so that happens as of August 7, right? So that you got a couple weeks before you're completely exposed.
Yeah, and the 50% only lasts till the 31st. So he's only giving a very limited discount.
July 31st.
Yeah,
not August 31st.
No,
July 31st.
July 31st. So, but I don't know many companies that, I mean, when you get to the big brands, it's different. But we kind of imagine American commerce as being all big brands, but it's really not. I mean, there's a lot of mid-sized to small brands, and there's no way they can afford or would need $1,000 worth of ads from Twitter in 30 days. Not to mention, right now, you don't know if that ad's going to show up next to a white supremacist or an anti-Semite or a Nazi, because he literally let all those people back on the platform. So I can't imagine even the 50% or the threat is going to make people go. Unfortunately, once a bully, always a bully, but you can't bully people into buying your product if they don't want your product. So they're just not going to away it. Like Twitter isn't that good for them anyway. Like TikTok is much better. Facebook is much better as an investment of your ad dollars. So who's going to go to Twitter just because they threaten to take away their verified? They're just going to shut their accounts down.
I've never been a big Twitter user, but as I understand it, Twitter is where you go when you want to get a message out. It's not necessarily where you go if you want to get a lot of traffic coming back to your site. So you got a campaign going with this well-crafted landing page, and you got a really good offer that you're making to the consuming public. Twitter mightn't be the best place to expend your time and expect return traffic. You'll probably do a hell of a lot better at Facebook, believe it or not.
Or Insta, or TikTok is very good for that too. TikTok also started text.
But seriously, is that true? Twitter tends to drive less traffic than the other than comparable social networks.
I don't know the actual statistics right now, but generally, yes, Twitter is one of the lesser providing, because Twitter is more about getting your message out in the now, in the know, right? So you're a news site and your journalists on there, and there's a breaking story and everyone wants to know what's going on. They go to Twitter and they see the trends and they go and they check it out. And it trends all day long. But as far as like your ads running through the system, most people don't click on them. Also, because of the way Twitter works, you're like in there for the in and now, not just to read a post. So you don't want to leave the site. But also a lot of people now, because of Musk, have blocked ads. So they've completely blocked the ads in the network. So you know they won't see them. So
Hmm.
you have a lot smaller range than you think you do because these people are actually not seeing your ads. So yeah, so I think this is going to be the final death knell because what company is going to spend $6,000 on ads on Twitter in 180 days, every 180 days? Like
Well,
that's 3 months, right? So we're talking $24,000 a year on Twitter ads.
you know what you get when you take an X and you turn it 45 degrees?
What do you get?
A cross. And you know what you bury under crosses? Dead
De-
stuff.
Dead birds.
Dead birds. Yeah, dead birds. I think honestly, I don't see a I don't know. I'm rooting for the communications medium, but obviously I can't root for the owner of the communications medium. But
No, and I've seen a lot of big accounts that have just like have weathered all this, saying they're staying because they want to make sure that people get like good information or things like that. Saying in the last 48 hours that they're leaving, they're done. This is enough. They're finished. Even in our industry, there are people that have decided to shut their accounts. So I just don't think that you can run a company by trying to bully your consumers. It just doesn't work. And they may put up with it for a little while, but then they don't. And he's going to be left basically with the 4chan of the internet trying to do WeChat from China. And I just don't perceive that as probably going to be really successful, but we'll see. I don't know. I
you
will
know,
say one thing. Can I do one pet peeve though, real quick?
yeah.
He's expanded the character count to 25,000 characters. Yeah.
What?
Just so you know,
You
yes.
can publish a small novel on Twitter now?
Yes, and people with egos do that. And I want to tell everybody out there, so you know, when you write one of those long things, they get much less engagement because nobody wants to read your blog post on Twitter. Also, the way it looks is really wonky, so it's really not the easiest thing to read anyway. But if I'm on my mobile phone and getting 25,000 characters from you or 2,000 characters from you, I am not happy. I don't want to read that on my phone. So, anyways, but they are showing that if you're doing those large character counts on Twitter, people are not engaging with it nearly as often. Far fewer shares and far fewer reads. So just let people know.
For some reason, I just had this really stupid fantasy of the great Alan Blywythe somehow pioneering the art of the snappy Twitter audit. 25,000 words, Alan. You could get a whole bunch of, some of Alan's favorite words are quite short, right? Like 4 letters, actually. And so, he packed quite a bit into there. Um,
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, like Barry Adams yesterday from overseas.
yeah.
Yeah, he said he's done. He's leaving, so he's no longer has his account there. If you want to find him, you got to find him on
Barry's had
LinkedIn.
a Twitter account since what, 2007 or like forever?
Forever, yeah, and he does a lot of Google News stuff on there. And I follow him. Well, I'm friends with him, but I also follow him because of his, news tweets because he's really knowledgeable about all that. And I do news sites, so um, yeah,
Well, there you go. And it
yeah.
would be really, here's one of the pities of all the venues that John Mueller interacts in. Twitter is where he makes his best smartass remarks or his best pithy remarks. And I really like this one because this has kind of been a annoyance of mine for years and years and years. But with the advent of AI, it's just been crazy. The John Mueller was asked about programmatic SEO, calling it a fancy banner for spam. Okay, so SEO Lily Raid noticed that a whole bunch of sites are using what she calls programmatic SEO by scraping and repurposing data from like other sites, which will create a massive number of landing pages that are totally specific to whatever topic. You can think of when you want to make you're working on lawyer sites and you had like or real estate sites and you want to represent every city in America, so you talked about the parks and the schools and all that good content that you could scrape from public
Other people's
databases or
websites.
Wikipedia or whatever, other people's websites. Sure, but people have been doing this for years, but with AI there's just like massive amounts of badly scraped, mostly accurate, but rapidly compiled and released onto the internet content that is ranking really well in Google. So it's not even Google or Bing or whatever using AI to come out and create result sets that may or may not be accurate. It's Google using its regular algorithm, that is known for being able to ferret out what is and isn't factual, sort of.
Not factual.
Well, what is and isn't linked to, and has a whole bunch of other people are sort of vouching for the validity of the content. There's so much bogus content out there right now, and it's just being so rapidly created, and it's ranking at Google that it's not about the AI going out and finding weird and compiling weird results. It's about the information that results are being compiled from being weirded to begin with.
Well, and on the plagiarized part of it, Google, this is in my talk I did this week, last week, 2 weeks ago in Amsterdam. So it's from November 30th, 2022, Search Engine Journal, Barry Schwartz. Google says we have algorithms to detect and demote AI altered plagiarized content.
Well,
that was 2022.
So when's it going to happen?
Well, here's the thing though. Here's my thought on that. So a lot of times in the groups, you'll see people go, I did this entire site with AI content. And I'm talking plagiarized scraping, just AI content, which is plagiarized scraping in a different way.
Oh, sure it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But they're like, well, my whole site's ranking is awesome. And then you see them like 3 months later come back and they're like, that site I was doing all AI, it's like tanked totally and I can't get anything back. Because Google's, algorithms, they don't just see your site day one and then they kill you for it, right? It's usually over time, usually like 3 or 6 months span. So you might put all that out there and it may rank for a while and then it won't. And then most of the people that do this kind of sites, though, they have like a dozen sites behind it. They just turn and burn. So they're like, yeah, whatever.
That 3 months that they were doing quite well, they were actually making money off that site. So they put something else up somewhere else.
Well, like the site we talked about that scraped Amazon, and they made it like $800,000. I don't know if it was a month or over 3 months, but that was a lot of money.
They lasted almost 8 months.
8 months, okay, but they're making tons of money. Of course, someone turned them in. Google's algorithms just didn't find them, but the algorithms do tend to find you. And the other thing too that they've been very specific about with the helpful content update, if you're just regurgitating what already exists, they don't really care to index you. And Gary Ish has even said in LinkedIn that they will not be indexing as much content anymore. So if you're doing AI content, scraping content, AI content, you're just regurgitating what's out there. But the helpful content update isn't going to hit you day one. It's a learning algorithm too. So you may be fine for 6 months or a year. And then one day you wake up and your site's gone. You have no more traffic and you're figuring out why you can't get your site back. It's because you just regurgitated what already exists from other people's sites. And Google knows that. They already had algorithms before the helpful content that did this, but they definitely have the helpful content that does that as well.
Well, my only reaction to that is let's hope this prompts natural and creative writing, even creative copywriting. Trust me, it can be, because I'm more concerned how to say this properly, because it's a fairly complex thought. You were right to call me earlier when I said, Google's able to ferret out what is and isn't true. That's not true. Google tries to ferret out what is and isn't true, and it has a number of tests to do that. The first of which used to be if people took the time to link to it, it's probably valuable to them.
Yeah, so they use algorithms to determine sites that would be quality, and quality sites generally aren't putting out false information. That's basically how they adjust that. They don't actually look at the content, because how would you know what's true and factual? It changes on a minute basis.
Yeah, so Google tries really, really hard, but now there's whole groupings of corpuses of lists of information that was generated by AI that is probably mostly factually correct and all that sort of stuff, but I don't know. Maybe it is. Like, it probably might be if it was instructed really well. But you don't know, and there's tons of this content out there, and it's just being pulled together, release. I doubt there's a heck of a lot of editing going on, given this is a churn and burn tactic, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that terrifies me. That really scares me, because all that information is the information that the rest of the web gets weighed against. It's going to get wonky in the weirdest ways a couple years from now.
Well, another time we have to talk about the wonkiness, because they're running out of material to train on, and that's causing issues. Also, most recently, They did a bunch of tests on like ChatGPT 4, and it's becoming significantly dumber, as we talked about last week. So, be careful of your AI content. I give talks on it. One of the biggest things I say, the most important slide of my deck is you always have to have human review of AI anything, because it may or may not be right.
You must be careful, or your quick brown fox will bump into the lazy dogs, and then it's in trouble.
It's true. That's true. That slide is actually in my deck.
What, you had a quick brown fox bumping into lazy dogs? Are you kidding?
Something
Really?
like that.
I just made that up.
Not exactly, but Ryan, our friend Ryan Jones, has been on the show. He tweeted about how it doesn't analyze, and he said, "What is missing in this sentence? The quick brown fox jump over the lazy dog," and it said J is missing in the sentence, but there's a J in the sentence because it doesn't analyze, right? So it doesn't analyze anything. It's just the next predictive word. So he's like, "You are wrong. You get an F. How would you rate yourself? Because that's not the missing letter. It's S. Oh, I'm very sorry. You're right. It is S." And then it goes on. So it was just a funny exchange I put in my deck because it points out how it doesn't analyze things. And he uses that sentence multiple times to show how it doesn't analyze things. It just repeats the next most likely word.
I'm gonna have to message him afterwards and thank him for the psychic brainwave. That's the only way to explain it. Obviously, Ryan and I are on the exact same brainwave.
Yeah, exactly.
Clearly.
I brought it to you. I had to do the deck this week. I had it in my mind. So.
Okay, so given that AI is everywhere, and like MSG is being blended into pretty much everything to taste for flavoring and stuff, and that the most recent stories about AI have tended to stray away from the wonders of artificial intelligence and are tending to focus on the blunders of artificial intelligence. And we have a whole lineup of stories here on our news sheet that talk about safety guards, watermark tools, safe and responsible forums in which the major AI creators are going to collaborate to create safer and responsible new models. Basically, the super rush to install guardrails.
Yeah, so first, let's just talk about the big fail this week because they quietly shut it down. And OpenAI shut down their AI detection tool because it's wrong most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good because there are poor students and stuff getting Fs on papers because teachers are running through the one OpenAI gave them and it didn't work. But OpenAI was supposed to put watermarks into their technology, which they hadn't done yet. But this new group we're talking about, the Frontier Model Forum, which includes Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, and I can never say that other company, Apothic, I think that's the name of it.
Anthropic.
Anthropic, that's it. That's how you say it. So when I read it, I'm like, how do you say this? So Anthropic, they got together with the President of the United States, and they started working on how they're going to make it safer. So one of the things and it's called the Frontier Model Forum, and they're going to come up with guardrails that they all agree they will use. So it won't just be like one company in the US using it, it'll be all the majors. And right now, the major companies are driving all of this because you don't have the money. No small company has the money to make their own models. They have to use the models that exist. So one of the things they're going to be adding is watermarking the AI content. But they're all going to agree to do it so that everything from deepfakes to images to text, they will have watermarking in there that will make it clear that this came from AI. Now, once you put that in another tool and have it rewrite it, I don't know how how it will work yet because they haven't said. But it is cryptographic watermarking, so it will be different on every document, and it will be random. Like there'll be a period in a spot, or there'll be a letter I, or something like that. So it'll be very random. It won't be easy to just defeat. And I can say Adobe's been responsible about this because Adobe's new AI tool puts in the information about the image that people can look at, that the image is AI generated. Even if you started with an original image, it's going to say it's AI generated. And then Google's actually adding to its images collection from that watermarking, they're going to add and mark things as AI generated in search. So it is a nice step forward to see all the companies come together and say that they're going to agree on how they're going to do this, and then they're all going to do those things. Now, whether that works in practice, we'll see. but at least it's a nice step forward because right now it's just been the wild, wild west and everybody does what they do. So I think that's a positive.
Well, it is a positive. It'll be interesting to see what they come up with, especially in advance of pretty much every government, large and small on Earth, racing to come up with ideas of their own on AI. I know that Congress is racing to understand and legislate. The Canadian Parliament is racing to understand and legislate. EU is racing to understand and legislate. And the problem when legislators race to get stuff done is they often overlook a lot of stuff because, for good or for ill, our legislators aren't often
Tech
competent.
savvy?
Well,
Tech
tech
savvy?
savvy, that's a nicer way to say it. I was going to say
Yeah.
competent when it comes to the internet, but tech savvy, indeed.
I think tech savvy, yeah. Yeah.
As we go along, we're having younger legislators will understand the new environment better than older legislators who never had to understand the environment. But
still, AI is very complex. So, I mean, there's a lot of people in our industry who don't understand it. We're all in tech every day. So, I think that's a specialized niche. But you're right; they usually do have difficulties understanding.
It's so much easier to spot the people in our industry who don't understand it than it is the people in Congress who don't understand it, because the people in our industry who don't understand it are calling themselves experts. I mean, it's so easy to find.
It's like 2 hours after ChatGPT dropped, there were like 10 articles on how to use it for
Actually,
SEO.
you know what? Let me retract that right now. I'm absolutely retracting that. That was a generalist joke. There are some actual serious experts on AI in our industry, for good or for ill, for real.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Most of them ain't running around bragging about it.
No, and they're not writing articles literally 2 hours after ChatGPT dropped on how to use it for SEO. Yeah. But so interesting enough, by the way, the group that came to the Biden called together are the leaders in the industry. So they will be making the rules with oversight. But they have already agreed to third-party testing before releasing any of their models to the public, and that they will clearly label all AI-generated content. Now, I don't know how they're going to enforce that from going from tool to tool, but I guess they could really simply make a law that if you take off the label, like your mattress still has a tag on it.
And
if
also,
you take off the label, that you could be fined or something.
Very worth keeping in mind. These are only the largest players. There are a number of smaller players that are working independently. And while the largest players may set a template, unless it's legislated, the smaller players don't necessarily have to follow it. Or they might set frameworks, ethical frameworks, but the smaller players don't have to follow it. And I'm suspecting that the nameless AI that we reported on last week, that is just it's meant to be malicious.
Yeah, it creates malware.
They're not going to follow any framework come up with by the big houses. So we're still in the Wild West mentality, and until there's a way to actually police bad actors in the environment, I'm not really sure what can be done.
That is very true. But the one thing is, if the people that are in agreement, on doing certain things to protect, like third-party evaluations and labels, are all doing that, then it'll be easier to be suspicious of somebody who's not doing that, and less likely maybe to fall for like the malware scam or something. So, or the deep fake, like all AI generated videos have to have a label on it, and this one doesn't. It's probably easier to say, well, this one might be a little sus. So, there is a kind of the norms that can also kind of force people to want to be good players into doing the right things. But you're right, the bad players are always do bad things. But it's like my sociology professor always said, locks on bikes only keep honest people honest. So honest people might go, oh, I might borrow that bike. Oh, there's a lock. Never mind. Right. But the dishonest person will have the
can of Freon to break the lock. Yeah.
Because so you can't stop that, but you definitely can help prevent people from being suckered in by a deep fake video that Godzilla has just entered your town and is destroying it. So.
Well, and ultimately, that's
by the way, it's a real thing someone fell for. Oh, go ahead.
Of course they did. Ultimately, that's where the great protection has to come in. The state can't protect you against AI. The state can't protect you against investment scams. They can pass laws against fraud, but they can't protect you from getting scammed. Only you can. So media literacy, understanding everything one possibly can about how content gets generated, why it gets generated, and why people might wish to manipulate content. Um, it's honest media literacy moving forward, especially in an age where we're just getting smacked by more and more and more media, is the only defense against uh, the coming era of AI enhanced bullshit.
Yeah, pretty much bovine feces. But yes.
And here's the saddest thing, Christine, the thing that bugs me the most. There's actually most information out there, most people who put information out there, who try to cover stories, who try to be journalists, are trying as hard as they possibly can to get the right information, to give something, a reasonable facsimile to factual. And those people's efforts are being trusted less and less and less each day. That's the saddest part.
That is the saddest part, but that's also a whole bunch about the fake news generation and things like that. So, but yeah, but that's a different talk for a different thing.
On to something much more fun. Back in the day, when before there was like such a plethora of before the mainstream media really cared about the tech world, especially the search world, reporting season used to be the most fun time in the tech journalism space. Nowadays, everyone loves checking out Google's earnings, Bing's earnings, Meta's earnings, etc. But back in the day, nobody cared what Google was making except for the people in the machine itself. So it's reporting season. Oh my goodness, yay!
Earnings calls, yes.
And this is when we actually learn what's going on underneath. This is the closest we're going to get to learning what's really going on beneath the hood. Everything else is conjecture and public relations, right? They put out a PR. We try to decipher what they say. These are real numbers. So Google ad revenue is up 3.3%, and Bing ad revenue is up 8%. Google's ad revenue is actually pretty close. It's raising a little slower than first quarter to second quarter. First quarter ad revenues increased over the quarter previously. But Bing, on the other hand, had a much better second quarter than first quarter.
It did. Although we have to be fair here too. The percentage number in dollars are probably very different because Bing's numbers are much lower than Google. So getting 8% growth versus 3% growth could be very monetarily.
When I'm talking 3% growth at Google, check this out, okay?
Yeah.
In 2022, last year, the quarter ending June 30th, so end of last month, second quarter of the year, 2022, Google made approximately, because just between friends we round stuff up here, $69,685,000,000 in revenues. In 2023, same period, same 3-month period ending June 30th, they made $74,604,000,000, more or less, give or take. So that's a lot of money in one quarter. That's a 3-month period. That's the revenues they brought in. Now, they had a ton of expenses, the operating income. It costs a lot to run decommissioned dams to cool your processing centers. Yeah. And those employees, they cost a pretty penny too.
Yeah. When you get rid of a bunch, though, it helps.
At the end of it all, Google's net income in last quarter, $33,419,000,000. That's a 3% increase on the $32,438,000,000 they made at this time last year. That's year to date. That is some money.
That is some money. My head hurts, actually. But
Uh,
we'll see how they do next year because he wants to break them up. And I noticed they've been selling off some things, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, it is up right now. Although when you look at like Bing's earnings, if you look at it the long term, they're way down from where they were in Q1 22, which is 40% growth. So they have 8% growth this time, but it's not 8% growth over last quarter in Q3 23 because that was 10. So
yeah,
yeah,
they've been seeing ad revenues decreasing
yeah,
since Q1 2022 fairly significantly.
yeah.
Um, and that's there was they got their quick AI bump, which actually wasn't as much a bump as it was holding even. Um,
Yeah,
and
usage
yeah,
held even. Yeah, the users that were already there used more, but they didn't increase market share, so it didn't help them that way.
the real winners this year seem to be LinkedIn, who increased ad revenue on lower traffic.
Yeah, well, as we know from Google, it depends on how you place those ads in your product. So Google's ad revenue goes up because it confuses users and where the ads are. Then they go up for a quarter, and then people figure out where they are, and then they go down. So I think LinkedIn's probably along those lines. LinkedIn is like my least favorite platform,
Yeah,
personally. Yeah.
I LinkedIn could be excellent. If people would only stick to business in it, it would be a wonderful place. But the problem is, whenever you go to LinkedIn, you get jumped by like three or four vendors who really, really, really want your attention right now.
Yes, and all the spam I get in the email. Like I remember in the days, the people that have been around for a while will know, there used to be a day when you LinkedIn, if you tried to message anybody or add anybody you didn't know and they rejected it, after 6 of those, you lost your account. You were suspended.
Really? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. Way back in the day, if you tried to add someone you didn't know and they didn't request it, yeah, you had to make sure that someone was going to accept your adding them because
Oh
they
my.
would
Well,
they would suspend your account. Yeah. Now I get like 50 spam emails from certain countries every single day. I wish I could just eliminate those countries. And I'm not going
well,
to do business with them because they're not a country I do business with. So just eliminate them. I don't need your guest post or your links or your whatever it happens to be.
I honestly have no idea how my career survived. I don't go to LinkedIn for that exact reason. I can't stand the environment. When I go there, I get jumped by, and I feel terrible because I write, and anybody who writes me, I will write them back. And it just makes me feel crappy to say no to everybody.
Ah,
Okay,
yeah.
more Google stuff. So that was earnings. Everyone made a lot of money. Some didn't make as much money as quickly as they anticipated, but they all made a lot. Um, this is kind of neat. And this, I think, for the importance of reviews in e-commerce can't be understated. Google really, really, really cares about what the consumers say about the products they may or may not be buying off of you. Well, they really care about the products consumers say they bought off you. They don't really care about products that consumers haven't bought off you. But they want to know the consumer's impression, and if you can deliver it and consistently have strong reviews from consumers about your products on your pages, Google will reward that. But Google's testing categorizing the type of review that's left. So there could be a family at a hotel site or Airbnb. It could be a single person who purchased a makeup set. You know what I mean. It could be whatever type of person left the review, whatever demographic information they leave whilst giving review. Google is, or perhaps just signed into their Google account while giving the review. Google is separating them into the type of consumer they are and listing, um, you know, review, family, review, single.
Just wonder how they know that. Like, I know if it says family in it, maybe, but
You know what? I'm afraid that neither Google or Barry Schwartz really expanded on how they know that. I'm guessing it's reviewers who have already given Google a lot of this information. Google knows who you are, right? You signed
I
into
mean,
your Google account. As long as they don't give identifying information about you, like where you live, your demographics. You've already told them they can share that.
Yeah, yeah, but just like I'm a solo traveler, like I live in a vacation town, right? Tourism town. I go stay on the strip sometimes, meeting their people for conferences. I'm with friends, but so I'm not solo. So I don't know. I just think it's a little weird, but I mean, it could be helpful if it's accurate. Yeah, it could definitely be helpful. Just kind of curious how they know that information.
What I'm really looking forward to, I have a couple uh, business to consumer sites in the state, my stable of clients, and something I'm really looking forward to is seeing if identifiable reviews tend to help the page they're on perform better than non-identifiable reviews. So if and also if the review is like the target group or individual that should be using the product, again, the vacation home and a family, that goes together like bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
So will that get rewarded more than just a review that doesn't give that kind of information? Will be seen as more valuable?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, we'll see when it comes out once we know more about how it works. But I'm a little cautious that it's going to be accurate enough to be helpful, but it might be. So,
Google's experimenting with it. According to Barry Schwartz at SE Roundtable. And I don't know. I think remember the what did they call it? Cohorts. That had the stupidest name. Um, remember when Google was being forced away from Universal Analytics and they started talking about cohorts of interests and started
yes.
dividing?
Yeah, yeah. The
God, I wish I
demographics and
remember what that
analytics.
term was. So that's where I think they're drawing this from.
Definitely possible. Until we know, though, I wouldn't say we
Oh,
know,
indeed,
but
indeed.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
yeah. This is all speculation, 100% speculation. But knowing that, and again, you can access what Google thinks about you and your product, that information in GA4. Um, Again, give it a couple weeks. Somebody much smarter than me, or maybe me if I get around to actually looking at it, will find the correlations that suggest
Yeah.
this is what Google's actually doing.
By the way, speaking of analytics, did you see that Sweden's privacy watchdog issued $1 million worth of fines for violations of GDPR to analytics this month?
Yeah. I mean, like, okay,
Did
so an
you?
EU country is mad at Google for violating its privacy laws in one way or another and has assigned the fine that isn't even a rounding error to them.
I know, right? But the funny thing is, G4 which we were told they had to move to G4 because they had to be GDPR compliant.
Well, I'd also understood that G4 was GDPR compliant.
Uh,
That the EU had signed off on this last week. Is that
yeah, I
not
don't
true?
know. Well, this is a little bit earlier in the month when they gave him the fine. So if it had changed, it could have changed in the last 2 weeks. I don't know. But it was that because data was going to another country. So it goes like Google Fonts actually violates the GDPR because data goes to Google with your IP address. So if you want to use Google Fonts in the GDPR country, you have to locally host them so that it doesn't go to Google.
Um, the NAC um, kind of intercepts all communications that go through the United States to begin with. It says so right in the
NSC,
Patriot Act.
NSC,
NSC,
NSC.
sorry, it says so right in the Patriot Act. So I'm unsure what Norway's court is reacting to, because this has been going on since 2001. Um, Now, not saying that it should be going on because I don't like my communications going through a foreign government security service, which happens to me daily, and it's been happening since 2001.
Yeah.
But I don't expect the Canadian courts to react to it so strenuously at this late date.
Yeah, well, I think it's because G4 is a change, so they probably were evaluating G4. So
Well, yeah, I know, but again, it's the Norwegian court. It's the Norwegian courts specifically pointing to the Patriot Act as the reason they're assigning Google the $1 million fine, because Google, an American corporation, can't get around American law.
yeah,
Like
don't
that
say
one
it like
weirds me out.
that.
I don't understand the court's logic there. Maybe
Um,
I'm misreading this long article here, but I don't think I am. um,
they don't care about our law. They just care that Google's violating it. So, which is, I mean, I get it. It's fine. I mean, privacy in the United States is terrible. We have very few laws that protect us. So, and they have many laws that do protect them. And the French and Italian watchdogs are also saying the same thing. They're telling people not to use Google Analytics. That they should not use it on their websites. So I don't know how
well,
many are listening to that, but
for what it's worth, the more I'm using Google Analytics for, I do not like it as much as I like Universal Analytics or Google Analytics
oh,
as we knew it.
it's horrible.
But you know what? I'm finding more and more and more. First off, there's an entire library of things you can measure using GA4. Look at that library, see what pertains to your website and to your needs. But there's a number of things. If you use GA4 properly, you can get a lot more granular about the value and efficacy of individual visits. No, not individual visits. I don't know that
Anonymized,
John
yeah.
Smith showed up, but I do know that that visit at that time, this user, and they're assigned a numerical avatar. I can tell you quite a bit about what that visit did and the value of that visit. I can tell you the average value per visit. Saved a account the other day because I was able to prove that even though we're driving far more traffic, revenue per user is declining, and that ain't us. We're getting
Uh,
you the traffic.
the problem with G4 is it requires third-party platforms to get meaningful information, and you need someone who understands data analysis to run it.
Indeed,
So yeah, and most
that's.
even SEOs who are very experienced, I saw them in the forums this week. Finally, people are talking,
Oh, I'm not.
and people are very, very upset. So no, I know you're saying that there are some useful things on it. I'm just saying
yeah, I'm not as
there are
happy as I
people that
was
feel really.
with UA3. I loved UA3 because it did exactly what I needed it to do because I had years to adapt my operation to what it
Also,
did.
it also did a lot of straight data reporting, which G4 is terrible at. And G4, like just setting it up is just incredibly convoluted and difficult because you need a data analyst to do all of it. So for companies that have people like you that are super smart about data and, people, we have friends who can help us, it's one thing. But I saw a very well-known SEO who's really good, super smart and very mathematical and statistical in a forum this week saying, I feel stupid because I can't get this, just give me a basic report. And unfortunately, that's what clients tell me. And the clients feel really stupid because they don't have that background. Like he knows he should understand it, but he doesn't. So what's going on? But the clients tell me like they just feel like dumb trying to use G4. So they don't use it anymore.
One of the problems with GA4 from an interface point of view is I often feel like each feature, tool, or metric it has tries to do too much in the same space. So you have to be really careful about the settings. Like it will always default back to its original default settings. So you can't set it, go away a couple screens and come back again and expect it to remember what you had set before. So you got to be super careful as you're generating analytics.
That's rough. That's not good. I haven't got, most of my clients aren't using G4 right now, so I haven't got the deep dive. I really need to get into a deep dive this coming week. I was waiting until I got back from Amsterdam. So, but yeah, that's pretty bad. So, and the only reason I'm saying this is not to harp on it. Everyone knows G4 is terrible, and everyone's told Google G4 is terrible for 2 years. But just so if people are listening and they feel like they just don't get it and they're feeling dumb, don't feel dumb. The program is not user friendly, and it's not friendly to people that don't do data analysis already.
No, it's not. But I am telling you, number one, working on the premise that it's very hard to break something unless you're really trying to. Go explore. Don't worry about the outcome. Just go explore in GA4. Try to figure out what you're looking at. Don't save any settings on your explorations until you're actually confident you know what you're looking at. And then start looking at the libraries, different report libraries. You might find stuff quite valuable there. And again, I absolutely didn't intend to pull a metric out of GA4 that ended up saving an account. But I happened to across it while obsessing on this account half an hour before the Come to Jesus meeting. So,
I always love it when you find the thing right before the Come to Jesus meeting.
Well, here's the thing. I was, and again, I know we did our work. I know we did our work well on our end. We did the technical SEO, and that was our job. And again, GA4 helped me prove it.
And that was awesome.
That was awesome. And that brings us full clock. We've gone full circle around on the 27th of July, 2023. Next time we talk to you, friends out there in podcast land, it's going to be August, which means summer will really almost be over. And just to, put a fine point on it, get out there and enjoy yourselves. On behalf of Christine Schackinger from Sites Without Walls, this is Jim Hedger from Digital Always Media. You've been listening to Webcology on WMR.FM, recorded live to podcast on the 27th of July, 2023. Be kind, rank well, get out there and enjoy summer while you can, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everyone.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of WebmasterRadio.fm's management or sponsors. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without authorized consent of WebmasterRadio.fm is prohibited.